I asked him about the second half of the year, the first half it was like that's set in stone. The second half, he said, as it stands now. And this is what I'm sharing. I don't like to do this because they're private and they're for intercessory prayer. But as I said, I've been so inundated with people saying, what do you think about this pastor's dream and everything? And you know what? We each have our own faith. To each is given the measure of faith. I can speak only according to the grace given to me. I'll neither comment nor critique nor criticize anybody else's revelation that they have, except to say that oftentimes the Lord shows things that could be if he doesn't intervene. But this is what he said. He said of the sickness, he said, and it will lessen towards summer. He said, one birth pang is past. And he said, you'll have relative peace during the heat of the summer. He said, and then he started talking September, October, November, December, and then into January, February, March. And he said this. He said, he named the nominee for the Democratic Party, and he said he will suffer a stroke and other things, which will throw the election into turmoil. And he said it will go to court for the validation of the election and even holding it. He said it will even seek to be changed as it stands now, the date, but it will be upheld and the election will be held. But there will be organized riots and organized turmoil, as well as spontaneous rioting and looting in places, protesting the outcome of the election. And he said the last 2 months of the year will not be, the holiday season will not be happy ones for many people. And he said, and in January, he said in some places, for some people, he said there will be people who will have to choose between heating their home or eating. And he said it'll be a difficult time. He said, but you'll start to come out of it in February and March. And then he said, behold, the second birth pang has passed. Now it's interesting because I do Jewish studies a lot, and there's in the teaching of the rabbis, there's a phrase called the birth pangs of Messiah. And Jesus referred to that in Matthew 24:8. He said, these are just birth pangs. And anybody with a Jewish ear would have understood birth pangs of the Messiah. It's birth pangs that the earth must go through, where it's intense and then a season of rest, intense and a season of rest that lead up to the coming of Messiah. So anyway, as it stands now means it's for prayer. I'm looking at anything else I want to say. Oh, one of the other things he had said a few years ago was, he said, you'll witness an underground economy in my body. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you'll hear of giving and receiving, buying and selling, trading and bartering, trading and bartering, buying and selling. And, it's underground. It kind of happens anyway. We're supposed to take care of one another, right? We're hungry, thirsty, in need of clothes, sick. We're supposed to visit one another, take care of one another. That's going to become the way of the gospel, the way it should be, and the way it's always been to a degree. He's always had his people. Anyway, so I share that with a little bit of fear and trepidation, not because of uncertainty on my part, but I've been inundated so much. People want to know. This is a call to prayer, folks. This is not saying this is going to happen. And I hesitate because so many people put words in the mouths of people who share something prophetic, not realizing that the primary purpose for the Lord revealing things is for prayer, that things be changed. Just like Paul in Acts 27:10, just like Jesus talking about the day of the week and the season of year, just like with Nineveh, just like with Hezekiah. Prayer is the first call when something prophetic is revealed, whether it be dream, vision, visitation, etc. So take it for what it's worth, put it on a shelf. I hope that it doesn't come to pass. I don't wish any sickness or illness or death or turmoil on anybody. When I asked the Lord about how to pray, he said, you know how to pray. He quoted 1 Timothy 1 or 2 in verses 1 and 2, where he talks about to pray for making intercessions. He talks about specifically in King James Version, intercessions and prayer and supplication for kings and for all who are in authority, so that we may live quiet and peaceful lives with all honesty. And the Lord only added one comment to that when he commented on that. He said intercessions, then he said with all honesty. He said the days are coming when it will be difficult for an honest person to live honestly. And I thought that was interesting, and how what's going to happen here in the U.S. in the second half of, especially September, October, November, December, it's going to affect the whole world. But it's a birth pang, and the world will start to come out of it in January, February. And he just said he'll tell me more later, because he normally comes, like I said, in January and fills me in. He's more excited what's happening in the body of Christ, because it's just exploding with people coming to the Lord, and people who thought they were Christians, thought they had faith, are realizing they really didn't have faith. They've really been in fear, and their faith has been in the system or in the auditorium or in the program and the schedule, and they're finding that people really are important. That it is what the Lord told me in February in 2001, that the process of discipleship is supernatural, and as it was in the beginning, so it must be now. I'm moving in relationships. Find those relationships. He talked to me also about miracles. I'm going to share later about the miracles that are going to happen in the body of Christ, and I've gone far longer than I intended. So I'll let that go. Let it be a thing of prayer, not of fear, and just know that he couched his words with, as it stands now. And that means it's subject to prayer. So I have great hope. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.